builds the networks that keep you connected. And now, get both Verizon. Hi, I'm John Dutton, and we're once again having Spilled Ink, and it is a joy to be here after a long week of teaching and being in front of all of the students for our first week. I am looking forward to this. I always do, and I'm glad we could be here tonight. Michael Sensale is not here, and I admit I blew it last time. So I'm glad I have something to read. I'm going to read his work. It is called The 9 Levels of Publishing Hell. This is level 7 format. Now, we all know how Mike is. Mike is very good, very paced. It sounds like George Carlin. I will do my best, okay? Here it goes. The 9 Levels of Publishing Hell, level 7 format. As you traverse the issuing verse, your setbacks only get worse. As your conceptions face perceptions with accented inceptions, following wicked deceptions, not exactly a favorable reception, you desperately search for exceptions, finding only preconceptions. After your notion has gone through the 6-layered commotion, you've just about run out of emotion. As your impress has been expressed, depressed, repressed, and compressed, going through the arts of drafts and the editing crafts. While you publicize to capitalize, commercializing by serializing, synergizing by revising, you now find yourself flat in exhaustive combat as you enter the ring of printing format. As you prepare for publication, now comes new consternation. Your platform has its own norms. You are beguiled. Now you must change your file. Short it to a RTF or PDF. Maybe you should just ask your BFF. If you want the prize, your ideas needs trimming down in size. Losing kilobytes, then megabytes. Now the whole thing bites. You then must barge in on the margins. Oh, running text is up next. Losing length while gaining strength. You feel various rages as you number pages. Beat the hype by setting the right type. Lose the face, that's not your style. Not many spaces gets you riled. So many rules. Can't choose the right tools. Even philosophers can look like fools. You become enraptured in arranging chapters. Your brain feels the weary fog as you struggle to supply synopsis, bio, and prologue. To show your product is good and worth consideration, you must also include any affirmations as confirmations. When all is said and done, you can cheer aloud. Your tale is ready for the adjudging crowd. And that is The 7 Levels of Hell level format by Michael Sensale. I hope when this is done, you gotta see him live. If you've never seen Michael Sensale perform, he is fantastic. He does it just like George Carlin, and he's always fantastic. All right. Let me see. We're gonna go right at the top. Joanna Lord Koff, you are up. Take it away.
Okay.
It is yours.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to share this poem in honor of my daughter, Tara, who on 9/11 was a true hero. The poem's entitled Iris Dancing. I want you to stay this summer as my favorite bloom. Here, upon my windowsill, you sprouted in the spring, filled with sunbeams, acting like a riddle, hardly understood. Now the irises dancing in my heart are you, and I rejoice in their kaleidoscope of color. I arrange a garland to hang upon the door, setting its sweetness to greet visitors. It reigns as my purple masterpiece, by which I learn to paint love's sweet succulence. I learn love lives in moments, not time. So I wrote that in 2001. So on 9/11, my husband called my daughter, who was a student at Columbia University, in the morning to tell her that an airplane had struck the World Trade Center. So we told her to be careful and, you know, stay safe. So most of the day that day, we couldn't get a hold of her. A friend called mid-afternoon saying that he had heard from her and that her and her 3 girlfriends were going down to Ground Zero to volunteer. So that evening we were able to talk, and she said that, yes, indeed, they'd walked the 60 blocks to the World Trade Center, and they got there. They asked the firemen if they could help. And they said, well, we'll give you a bucket, and we'll give you a hat, and we'll give you a spade. And so the girls turned around and talked to each other, and they said no, they didn't think they were quite able to do that. So they asked if there was anything else they could do, and they said, not right now. So as they were walking away, a man came up to them and said, you could tomorrow go to the Jacob Javits Center and volunteer. They're collecting food for the the firemen and the first responders. So for the next 4 days, Tara would recruit different friends to go with her to the Jacob Javits Center and sit with the firemen, the first responders, talk to them, give them food, solace, cry with them, whatever they needed. And so that basically, after that, she went back to school. And then a few years later, they opened the 9/11 Museum, and they were asking people to respond if they had been a first responder. So I entered her information, and they quickly called her, as there weren't a lot of people that immediately responded on 9/11, not that first night. And so he asked her to write a narrative, and after she wrote the narrative, he called her and asked her to come to New York City. He was the historian for the World Trade Center Museum. So we interviewed her, and he taped what she had written. And if you go there today or on some random day, you may actually hear her speak and read what she did for those 5 days. So since it was 9/11 today, I thought nothing better than reading this poem. So the connection to Irish dancing is, after on spring break, I said to my husband, she's seen enough ugliness in the world. I need to bring her somewhere beautiful. And he said, so where? I said, Paris. And he said, oh, can I go? And I said, no, it's just us. So Tara and I went to Paris, and we went to Giverny, among other places. And it was in Giverny that night that this poem came to me. It was basically just about how I felt about Tara. And, you know, when you get so close to maybe losing someone, you see life a little differently. So I just thought, since it was 9/11, I would read this poem tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, let's go David Holloway. David Holloway, take it away.
Hello, everybody. David Holloway. Stuff I've been writing lately is really weird, so I decided to go with something older as a little more normal. This is a short story called Pizza. I heard Jeffy shouting and giggling on the other side of the door when I put my key in the lock. When I came in, he danced from one foot to the other with his arms spread wide. Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? He asked. I dropped my briefcase and picked him up, spun him around the entryway while he squealed in delight. He'd gotten into something sticky again. It covered my arms and hands. You caught a cloud with your kite and brought it home. No, 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 no. The word is no. He sang his favorite song from Sesame Street. The nasty dolphin is here. I put him down, followed him as he skipped into the living room. When I stepped around the corner, I froze. A green, viscous ooze covered the carpet and most of the lower walls. A blue-green creature about 3 feet long with a vaguely amphibian look to his body sat in front of the television. He had a long, fat tail and 4 very short limbs ending in malformed feet that waved in the air as he scratched his back on the carpet. There was no doubt this thing was male, and when it turned over and looked at me, I sensed an intelligence. Its features were vaguely dolphinoid, mainly the long snout and the blowhole on the top of his head. The creature smiled and said, "You can call me Pizza," in a buzzing soprano voice. I shouted for Darlene, and she stepped in gingerly. "What in the world is that?" She pulled me into the kitchen by my sleeve. "Jeffy found it in the garden and won't let me put it out. I thought I'd wait until you got home. You know so much about animals and things. I figured you'd know what to do with it." I heard Jeffy laughing and a strange grunting noise from the living room. "Wait until I got home? Why didn't you call animal control or the police or the National Guard? That thing's from another planet. It's an alien life form." "Really, Herbert, I think you're overreacting. Don't you just think it's somebody's pet iguana or something?" "Pet iguana? I heard it talk. It's blue and has slime all over it." "It does make a strange noise, but I'd hardly call it talking. And wait until you see Jeffy's smile when he plays with it. I'm telling you, it talks. It said, 'Call me Pizza,' as plain as anything." "Well, that's just Jeffy's name for it. He calls it Pizza, the nasty dolphin. Isn't that cute?" "Well, he's got the nasty part right." "I'm not saying we have to keep it forever. Let's see how it goes tonight. You know how blue Jeffy's been since Tad, his goldfish, died." "Do you think it's safe?" "Well, they've been playing together all afternoon and nothing's happened." After a few days, the slime began to smell. Darlene did her best, and even Jeffy pitched in to help clean up after the nasty dolphin, but the entire house had a fetid odor that a 5-gallon drum of Lysol couldn't help. Pizza seemed to be growing, but nobody would tell me what they fed him. Creature got big enough to give Jeffy rides and loved to splash around in the wading pool. He didn't say anything else to me, but I did catch him grinning and winking at me like we shared some big secret. Darlene said he was trying to win me over. I've stopped bugging her to let me get rid of him. I'm not sure I'd know how to at this point. I stepped directly on his head while he was sleeping in the hall last night. He didn't even twitch. On Friday, Darlene had a Tupperware party at the Nixons, and Jeffy was sleeping over at Bobby's house, so Pizza and I had the place to ourselves. Once we were alone, Pizza hopped up on the couch and picked up the remote in his slimy paw. He looked at me and grinned. "Looks like it's just us guys. What's it going to be, Smokey and the Bandit or the Bulls game?" I grabbed the remote away from him and began channel surfing. I may have to live with him, but I'd be damned if I'd let him decide what to watch. I hit the PBS station and saw they were screening The Magic Flute. Pizza winced and looked up at me. "What's that racket?" "Opera, Mozart. Don't you like it?" "Well, it's not exactly Hank Williams, is it? It hurts my ears. Change it." "I think I'm going to give it a try." I turned up the volume a few clicks. Pizza shot me a look and skulked out of the room, making a sound somewhere between a purr and a hiss. "Stay out of that refrigerator if you know it's good for you," I shouted after him, and settled down to watch the opera. It was fascinating, and after a while I focused on the performance and forgot the strange beast sharing my life in my house. Darlene swore that when she got home, she found me asleep on a couch with Pizza curled up next to me, purring like a big kitten. That's Pizza, folks.
I love it. It reminded me of, like, I'm watching like American Dad or something. That was what's coming into mind, that kind of humor. I was liking it a lot. All right, let's go with Thomas Dr. Love Burson. Thomas, unmute yourself and take it away. You're still muted, Tom.
Sorry about that. There we go. Is that better? Okay, the first one's called The Graceful Black Dress. It's in a series of vignettes. 1, a simple wrap of night with a string of stars and an elegant summer dream. 2, the band played Dixieland. The patrons stood at the bar doors. We cried while riding white horses, leading the parade. The night fell, but never slept as we told tales of how we once loved you. 3, beginning and end. Infinity isn't blind. We just can't see that far without everything becoming a blur. 4, collect the shadows, stir in the light, set the birds free. The wind guides Through the night, the fragrance of blossoms steals away fright. 5. Walk on the moon. Let gravity be assailed. Who gets the last dance? Top hat in hand, it's going to be a soft shoe to curtain fall. 6. Helix hyphenated, buckskin, feathers, raven tresses, fireflies in the meadows, black bear. 7. White tie, white gloves, string of pearls, white stocking, sheer, black light, no tales to tell. Actors are always under a spell. 8. Layers of history are applied starting at birth, character both wiring and imprinting, meaning an effort to drive a knife through the heart of chaos. It all starts with a dance, the beat pounded on a hard ground. 9. Simplicity is an art. The ground, the line, swan dive, disappears without a sound. Every pearl glistens. You never know when to start to breathe. 10. Expectations steal heartbeats. Answers make things disappear. The sublime washes up on our shores. Often we don't notice before it disappears with the next wave. She stood in the doorway. All my questions danced with doubts. I hoped my tie was straight. And my second one, in a totally different venue, it's a little bit more springy. And it's called She Will Not Wait. Snowdrops slipped into her footprints, memories, winter swirled about her as spring danced behind her, teasing the brown grasses. Silvered by wind, the wavelets shook loose light. Breezes left traces of their path upon the lake. She stood on the shore as the fog turned back. Sunlight causes waters to mirror. She sees forever calling her as the sky turns grays blue. Winter no longer skates over fractals of ice. Mallards flaunt plumage, the dart of cardinal as the rabbit rises to peek at her passing. Who is the suitor who lifts her spirit, releases her smile? She touches the water with a bare toe, a moment of bravery as the ripples spin out from her foot, full of tales of what future brings. Who will take spring into his arms, keep her strong and love her in the soft lights summer eves bring, keep her alive when fall returns and she feels the loss of children as they lead and heed the call of those migratory songs buried deep in their bones. Let spring in her first quiet joys be gifted by the heart of love, strong enough to stay when she feels like winter's cold, bitter hag. Seasons come and seasons go. Love and life are tangled in the roots of this yearly cycle. May all find peace in this course we see, but rarely fully understand much. We never know. And then the last, which is very short. I can do short, by the way. I've been accused of being long-winded, but this one's called Iconic, and it's dedicated to Marilyn Monroe. She understood more than man would what it means to be a sexy woman. What she couldn't do was escape the box the world had put her in once they believed everything she was, everything they wanted. Perhaps suicide is a kind word for death by social claustrophobia.
Thank you, Tom. I loved their second poem. I loved the wonderful imagery in there. And I was like, really? You short? No. Are you sure you're not going to surprise us with one more? Usually you're good for 4.
Well, there's one. I got tons.
I'm shocked you're only having 3, but you did a good job. Thank you very much for that. And let me see. We'll go to Robbie Rise Krieger. Where are you taking us, Robbie?
How we doing, guys? I know today's a tough day. I remember I was in 8th grade. I was in physical science class, and we got let out early, and we were riding our bikes around my friend's neighborhood. We thought, the terrorists were going to pop out of the woods. It was really scary, but I hope we can, just read our poetry and get through it. But this is a kind of a poem about my old car that my parents had to trade in. It was pretty old, so I wrote a poem about it to immortalize it. It's called Staring Out the Sunroof. It could almost turn me to tears if I thought too much on the last 17 years. You were like a classic hot rod, modern muscle going off as a god. All the coops would cower when those 225 horses were put into power. Windows down, I am out west, smoking a spirit as you climb up this crest. Reflecting on my right, I watch the Wyoming sun spill orange into the night. Lost on the high plains, these rough and dark roads mix us into the mystery. You and I, ancient mystics, hate to say it is all history. One too many times I drove you drunk, a party or a pub, and luckily no prison bunk. I'm only opening an honest door. Don't defeat me with every sin in the store. This is a picture of the past. We also went north and south, flying away too fast. My 2003 Acura TL, though I have parted from your purplish blue, every Appalachian hike or trip you took me on was true. That's it.
I loved it. What a memory. I remember, and I don't know why, because it was a big boat and it wasn't so flattering, but my car that I grew up with, that my parents had, it was a Ford LTD. I called it a big boat. It was so long, and it was a show. Thank you, Robbie. I loved it. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure. Hey, but I had one more. Is that okay?
I thought you only had one. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I had a road poem about the old van, too. Covered the sedan and the van.
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. It's about a college trip I took in about 2010 to Miami, long time ago. But I thought we'd go with the car road theme tonight. It's called A Moment in Miami. This garden of succulent citrus groves has me compelled through orange country, inclined further south into the flatland. No classes, no college, this was only impulsively planned. Some guys and I got in the van, and I flew off amongst the fools, a time in my 20s when I rode roughshod over the rules. Anywhere below North Florida was foreign to me, so I was charged with curiosity, exploring the other mysterious 300 miles stretching on down the state. After Fort Lauderdale, we really could not wait. Then I saw the sunburnt sign and a surreal Scarface vision. It was a daring 4 days of every questionable decision. Pulling into the partying Mecca, I let 2 off at the red light while Pesh prophesied with a crackpot all night. So I strolled the spicy plaza, Spanish streets, and danced along Ocean Drive, coughed out Caribbean smoke, then went for a dreamy dive into the transparent turquoise waters of a silky sand. Oh, how it did seize the flying pink flamingos and the pristine palm trees. All right, that's everything.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Robbie. Nicely done. Trip back memory lane. I loved it. All right, let's go to Alice. Alice Mergler. Make sure you unmute yourself and take it away, Alice. Ground control to Major Tom. Alice, no? All right. Then we will go to Brittany. Brittany, take it away. We'll hope Alice comes back later.
Okay, I don't have my video for this one because all my poetry is on my phone, so I apologize for that.
No worries.
I have 3 short ones today. I just have not been in the mood for writing, so, you know, it's kind of like you get what you get, and it might not be very good. The first one I have is working title of Media. The keepers of the gate formed a colony of hate. I resigned myself to censorship, definitions that destroyed clarity. Platforms exploded, lives imploded. I sought the conservation of my quiet sanctuary, but there is no protection in war. The next one is called Another Way. Deadly urges spread like the roots of a tree, drowning out a musical me. Virgin color poured out, wasting away on a dusty shelf, trying to find a way to self. It was as if the rainbows all turned gray. I do not know how to get to a better day. Still, I keep looking for another way. And the final piece is Wagon-Wheel Mind. My wagon-wheel mind spins, looking for a sign, searching for meaning in room motifs, bathing in sounds of the past. I tighten my grip on the present to enjoy the moment, still outfitted in memories of my past that reflect the smoke and ashes of my tired mind. My garments become heavenly raiments when I stop living in thrifted reflections. That's it. Thank you.
My favorite line was smoke and ashes of my tired mind. Oh, I loved it. After this week, it was perfect. Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate it. Let's see. How about Joseph Hickey? Joseph, take it away.
Hello. I've been having a spotty connection, so hopefully it doesn't go in and out while I'm talking, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so this is a poem 268B from a book I'm going to publish. It's called True Daughter of the Soil, and it's basically about like an extended metaphor about birds, poets, and stars. So let's just get started with this. It's from the perspective of a character named Harmony. So a lot of my poetry books are heavily character and narrative driven. You come home to me Friday night, and I can see in your eyes a happiness that no words could ever conceptualize. What we become when we are together is better than anything we could ever be apart. I never want to think about time or mortality. Both are like thieves that exist in this world, but are unwelcome guests in this world. My stars sang symphonies in the sky, and the poets of ancient times could not speak the language of the stars, but the melody was beautiful, so they put the melody of the stars were singing to their own words. However, none of these words were actually what the stars were singing. The birds heard these words and understood the language of the stars, and one of these birds befriended the poets and told them the secrets of the stars, and the poets began to speak the language of the stars. So the poets spoke this language through all of their poems and joyous songs. And then the stars heard these words and came to visit the world to see what was happening. And when the stars reached the world, they conversed with the poets and told the poets secrets that they would have never otherwise known without knowing this language. and having long and drawn-out conversations with the stars. After so much discourse, the poets learned about the other world and never wrote another sentence because they had found everything they had ever needed for words, because all that was left in the world for the poets was love without ambiguity. Come and nap with me for several hours and not think about the future or anything that may go wrong, because this is the moment I want to stay with forever. And that's my poem, so yeah.
Thank you, Joseph. I had that feeling of the Little Prince almost to there, the sort of the journey and the
Yeah.
stars. Very cool. Let's go with John Cowgill. John Cowgill, you are up.
Hello, everybody. All right, oh, okay, wrong sport. But anyway, I have 4, and the first one is called The Vanishing Experience. This is a story of a man and his life. He lived in the city of volcans on the island of Kwan. His name, Preston Lewis. His wife is Zola. He had 2 sons named Scott and Norman and a daughter named Winona. They were a loving family that lived in a house in the northern part of the city. One day, Preston came home to his wife and his 2 sons, but his daughter was missing. Zola called the police to search for her. They called back hours later to tell them that they could not find any trace of her. Preston and Zola started to worry. The boys went to the park to play, but when they arrived at the park, they found that it was not there. They returned home to tell their parents, who were astonished at what they heard. Zola left for the market, and she came back an hour later and told everyone the market was gone. They turned on the television, and there was a special report. The news people said that the downtown expressway had disappeared. There was hysteria everywhere. The camera turned away from the people for a second, then it turned back to find that the people were gone. Then a man ran to the reporter and told him that that Patco Rock, which is on the east side of the island, is gone. The reporter went ecstatic and when he heard the news. He turned to the man, but he was gone. Preston and Zola watched with a surprised expression on their faces. Zola called for Norman, but he did not answer. She looked outside and saw that the car was missing. Norma was not old enough to drive. Preston and Scott came out. The neighbor came up to them and told them that the airport had disappeared. Zola was wondering what was going on. She asked Preston where Scott was, but Preston did not know. He turned to the neighbor, but he was not there. They were starting to think about everything that was strange going on. They saw the mountain that was behind their house was not there anymore. They looked downtown, but they could not see it. They started walking down the street to see what was possibly happening. They ran to the mailman who lost his mail bag. It was starting to get crazy. They got to the mail truck to drive to the post office. When they arrived, the post office was not there. Preston looked away for only a second and looked back and saw that the mailman was missing. They got out of the truck and the truck immediately disappeared. Zola pointed to Preston that their whole neighborhood had disappeared. They walked down to the corner bar. They went inside and saw that it was empty. Everything was gone, including the bar itself. They ran outside and ran down the street to see what to see if they could find anyone. They found a police officer in a squad car responding to an accident scene. The officer said he called the fire department hours ago, but they had yet to respond. Preston Zola told the officer everything that was happening. The officer looked up and saw that the accident was gone. He was wondering what was going on. They got into the car and saw that the street disappeared. They were amazed at what just happened. They looked around only to see that everything around him had disappeared. Preston called back to Zola, but she was not there. Then Well, I would tell you the rest of the story, but I think it vanished. So that is the Vanishing Experience Part 1. This is a sequel, The Vanishing Experience Part 2. This is a story of 5 people: Ben, Harry, Paul, Rick, and Tiffany. As they were going out on an expedition search for the vanishing lands, and as they were heading out, Tiffany stepped on a rock and sprained her ankle, and she was in immense pain. Would they ever? Well, this story just vanished. Now here's the Vanishing Experience Part 3. This is about a woman named Jenny. She was feeling that, okay, this one didn't last very long. And I had a 4th story, but I think it vanished. So, and that's the Vanishing Experience.
I love it, John. I knew it was coming too. I think I've read that before. I was like, I know this one. All right, Alice, can you try it again? I know she's having difficulties, so because she texts me on the phone. So, Alice, try it again. One more time. See if it
John,
works.
can I make a suggestion?
Hold on.
Put your cursor on her name,
All right.
click on it, and then ask her to unmute. That may help.
I've tried that before. I don't know if she knows what that to do that. Alice, are you there? I'm trying. I'm getting text on the phone. She says I'm trying it right now. So we will see. Because she said she can call me and read it via FaceTime, I guess, if worst comes to worst. Alice,
I'm right here.
Yay! We have liftoff, people. Yes, it's always a show when Alice makes it on. So yes, standing ovation, Alice. I love it. All right, take it away, Alice. You are up.
You know, you're my techie, so but I kept trying all this time, and I've heard everybody, and they were wonderful. Yeah. Someone asked me today where I was on September 11th, 2001. Denied news. I was in my classroom at Parkside on this tragic day, listening to fledgling students I had been assigned to show the way to read more carefully and write with more interest in mind. I was struggling and hesitant, unusual this time. Suddenly, an announcement came from the office by a silent student sent to my room. He had a note for my eyes only, saying to me that pretty soon there would be rumors of serious news and not to use the television I could have turned on. Also, quote, keep teaching as usual and please stay calm, unquote. I had never in many years as a teacher received such a note. I thanked the carrier forcing saliva down my throat, and as this messenger closed the door, I depressed my urgency to know much more and keep on the subject of what my students would learn. To be the adult in the room, it was certainly my turn. First period was extended to more than 2 hours that day. The kids restless and wondering, wanting me to say what little I knew, but I kept remembering that I was implored to stay steady and teach as I was before. Then the first student was called from the room and then 2 others, so I assumed that maybe school would be ending early that day, yet I had to keep teaching to show the way to handle a situation with courage, not dread, while hoping that hours would turn to minutes instead. Second period and fewer students than the day before, with lots of roomers coming with them through the door. They actually knew much more than me, but with firm determination and wobbling knees, I said, "Welcome to class, and let's get started." Being in charge of restless teenagers is not for the faint-hearted. Lunch was raucous with tears and laughter, mixed in with uneaten trays of food, sporadic changes of strangling moods. It was one of those days that self-control was needed more than science and math. All thoughts of order were beginning to crash, and of course, more students disappearing into cars. And then out the window, buses assembling. Could we be very far from knowing the truth of what had happened outside these walls and how it would change our teaching this fall? We were excused the minute the buses were gone. I packed up quickly and rushed the hall and lawn to get home to know the terrible facts of horrible, vicious tower attacks. The next day we were told that schools were closed, helping all Americans to suppose that this year would be different and yet not to fear. We were united under flags that filled the air. Before we could feel joy, though, we had to know sorrow, leading us all to a better tomorrow.
Whoa. Fantastic, Alice. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you kept trying, Alice. You are the queen of tenacious. You will never give up. I love that.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Megan McDonald. Megan, you are up.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to read is a little out of season. If I do read it, I normally read it in May for the Kentucky Derby, which is something we have always done in our family. And I haven't read this one for various reasons, and it just seems out of season and out of time. So a good time to read it since the Kentucky Derby was in September, not May this year. So feel free to give it a title, John, because I know you will. The Run for Roses. This year, all that is left is thorns as memories wilt and fade. I will watch alone the race that was a family tradition. This year, all that is left is thorns. The race with grace will be beautiful and sad, sipping mint juleps as memories fade and wilt. Okay. I just need to bring up the next one. Fabric Talisman. In the weaving time, to blend the elements, one must mock the hand of fate. Take the strand of earth, fire, water, abandoned by the will of the goddess, each strand is color stolen. Use each strand to weave light into fabric of destiny, each fabric worn wards off the onyx hatred of the followers. They will take oil of spite to unravel your work. Stand fast in the light of the goddess who watches the elements and weave herbs of earth, spice of flame, apple fluid taste of air, and salt of water into fabric that can warp hate into fragments that time and weavers can control. Weave elements and leave dark night and onyx hate locked away on Athena's loom, that in the hand of the goddess, sister daughters of Arachnia, but avoid spider pride and weave fortune away from folly. And then the final one is unlucky. Unlucky or not, 13, just a number, another day to get through. Superstition, fears unfounded can rule a life. Walk this way now. Black cats, ladders, tunnels, all found unlucky or not. 13, just a reminder of what is lost, your special day lost in memory rubble. Rabbit's foot, penny on the street can only cause accidents. Leave alone, unlucky or not, 13, just a number even when found in threes. I walk in ranges of number, lost and found, avoid cracks and broken mirrors, still break a wishbone, but for now, lucky 13 is just a reminder of you. Thank you.
Oh, I loved it. I love the superstitions that you mentioned. Very, very nice. Thank you, Megan. All right, Kimberly Ray, your turn. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. I've got a couple pieces. I've been published a couple times this week, so that was pretty cool. But the last two that I've done this week were a little bit longer, more like prose. So the first one is Pink Moon Rising. Overlooking the shoreline, a deep sigh forms, releasing the exhaust of the day. Blowing out in the direction of the cool breeze, I scan the shore expecting something or someone, but it never comes. Looking up, the pink moon rises over the North Sea, and it hits me. This spot, this arresting moment is what I've been waiting for. Longing with anticipation eats away at such glorious living moments. The wandering shoreline stragglers earlier in the day didn't let anticipation eat them away. No, they planned their morning that way, coordinating wake-up schedules and rushing out the door, or maybe it was out of habit as early risers often do. If the night didn't consume me, I would become one of them. But I am committed to this rising pink moon. It calls to me to continue as a creature amongst the shadows. Observing their intimate walk along the shoreline, she leaned into him with her interest for the day, her restaurant of choice, and how their family would visit in the afternoon. It was carefully arranged to be a pleasant day. Or perhaps it was a secret rendezvous. After confessing their undying love, they took a chance they couldn't let slip away. Their longing made their dream come true, beginning with a morning walk along the shoreline. Such dreams that I too once held, as I now sit and wait for this rising pink moon. And the next one I have is called It's All Okay. Again, it's another prose piece I was working on today. It was close to the time we arranged to meet, here on our favorite park bench, the one that overlooked the town green. I sat with the view of passers-by, taking a glance at my watch every once in a while. It was any moment now, the ripping away, the bandage stripping off. We didn't need the words. We both knew it had come to this. You walked up with a carefree smile and an ice cream cone to smooth out the tone. Your tongue rounded the ice cream like it used to do the same to me. We couldn't get back to those times, before we hurled hate and indifference, before you throw the suitcase into the trunk and disappear. But returned to say, it's all okay. It didn't mean anything anyway. So here we sat with an impending implosion of the heart, while yours left months ago. I turned and asked for a bite, as memory flashes recalled bites taken from your ears and down your neck, blissful moments that will never be replayed. So, this is it? This is it. It's okay. We'll be fine. The words were empty, spoken as if he had already left, spoken to reassure me that I would be fine. But you had already sailed on, and this was all formality. Okay, I'll be fine. You don't have to. Your eyes met mine, but still with a bit of care. Are you sure? Nodding, I pulled the ice cream from your hand, swirled my tongue around, and tried to replace the image where my tongue once knew it ought to be. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. Much appreciated. Lesley, I don't know if you said you had anything to read, or did you find something? Would you like to read something, Lesley? Oh, maybe she's.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
It's been a little bit of a disaster. Yeah, I found something. Just when you get the ends to meet. That's what it feels like this week. Out of the ashy sky, sharp stars cut their way through tenuous webs of hope. Really, Bogart? I'm sorry, this has been like this all day. Let me start this over again because he's just mood kill. Just when you get the ends to meet, out of the ashy sky, sharp stars cut their way through tenuous webs of hope, scattering them like ice floats in a spring warmed too fast for unpacked sweaters. The delicate structure of the planned approach lists and crumbles at one end, valuable time necessary for the next phase of the journey, sacrificed to rebuild again and again. The dream you thought was ready to live becomes shadows crossing the sun, becomes repetitive. Hot, cold winds trick your throat to close, stealing minutes from the hourglass. As you do over and over again and again, trying to rebuild the magic palace, which holds itself together with hope instead of falling as soon as your back is turned. And I'm going to do a shameless plug, maybe. Tomorrow is Poets Anonymous from 2 to 5. It is a Zoom meeting. I will post it up in the chat with the password. So if you want to join us tomorrow, our reading is a little different. We read one poem at a time, going round and round, round robin. And so it's just, you know, it's quite relaxed.
If you want, I also put her email address on the Spilding website and underneath.
Okay.
So if you don't get it here, you can get it from her. Just send her an email. Anybody, make sure you're typing your titles in the chat. It's always greatly appreciated for my record. And last but not least, Robert, you are up. I know I saved you for last tonight because I thought maybe you have some humorous stuff to take us away on this tough week and a tough day. So Robert, take it away.
Good evening, I'm Robert. I'm a writer from Lewis, Delaware. And I thought I would do something a little different because everybody's writing is already in a draft. I have an idea file, and sometimes I have 3 to 10 words, which are the start of writing, and I thought I would go over some of them and what my inspirations for them were. The first one was this month in September. I'm a member of a writing group which primarily focuses on marketing and selling books. And one of the writers talks about the Amazon ratings for his books all the time. And I came up with an idea for a novel similar to the Da Vinci Code called The Amazon Ratings Algorithm. And it would be a thriller. For the last 2 weeks, I've been trying to get one of the writers in that group to write it, and I would write part of it, and I haven't been successful so far. One of the ideas I had for the book is that one of the characters would try to manipulate the Amazon ratings for a book. There was a movie in the 80s called The Grifters where a woman went to a racetrack and she would bet on a horse who had high odds to change the odds. So I would have a character like that. The next idea I came up with this month was on September 2nd for writing short fiction. I've been watching a lot of movies recently about voyeurism, like a Hitchcock style. And I've always been interested in corn mazes. And there's actually a role of a person who is on an elevated tower who's a corn maze lookout. I'm thinking about writing a short story where the protagonist is a teenager who always thinks they see something, but their interpretation is wrong. Like the first thing they would see is that they would see in the corn maze a forceful sex encounter, which they think would be a rape, but it really would be consensual. Another thing that they could see is that they would think they would see a murder, but it would actually be an assisted suicide. And other ideas I have for comedy, one of them I came up with in April. There used to be a television show called The Big Gay Sketch Show, which was on for 3 years. One of the segments was called Logo Life Tips, where two men used to make things that were used at home. And the idea would be that the hosts would be Mommy Dearest and Christine, and they would be making wood and wire hangers. Another idea, which is probably could be good for COVID-19, is a comedy one, which is a horror about spreading germs. Like in the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of horror movies. One of them I could call The Sneeze, The Cough, The Bugger, The Snot, or The Phlegm. And I'll just talk about one last one and I'll close. There was another one I came up with in April, which was a comedy one about the masks that we wear during COVID. And it was called the Maria von Trapp mask. And it was a home kit to convert your curtains into face masks. And that became a comedy sketch on television. And I just use my idea file, and sometimes I'll put 3 to 5 words in it to remember something which may prompt later writing. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Robert. You read it at the end, you were starting to break up. I think everybody has had a chance to read. I appreciate you all. I did the one little thing I wrote today, so I'll close with this. It said, remember this day, 19 years ago, when the day ended, there were no Democrats, no Republicans, and no independents. The country was unified as one as Americans. I hope no other tragedy causes this unity, but I sure would like it back. And then I've signed it, let's roll. So I just want everybody to stay safe out there. I appreciate you all. It's always a good time when we get together. I promise I'll write something next time to join, and hopefully school gets better. I appreciate you all. I'm John Dutton. Have a good night, and thank you guys very much for being here. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.